and just great conversation overall. Alex McGrath joins the show. Alex, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
What's happening, buddy?
Dude, just hanging out, man. How was your bye week? Do anything fun over the
It
bye weekend?
was a lot of work around the house.
Yeah.
Just managing some home projects and took kids to Fall for Greenville Friday. Had a big time and just a nice, relaxing weekend.
Yeah, I was able to make it out to that as well, man, on Friday afternoon. It was a good time. It's a cool event. Very cool event. Very busy, very, very good event though.
Yes, yeah, it gets a little crowded there.
Yeah. Were you able to catch some of the football? Did you watch any Bama Tennessee or
I watched that entire thing. That
yeah.
was, whew,
Hell of a game. Hell of a game.
it really was. That
Hard to
was
watch
awesome.
that and then watch our offense. Hard. Very hard.
Well, yeah, I was texting my buddies while that was going on. I was like, Tennessee's offense is so brilliantly simple that I wish we could mirror that in some
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting, Alex, we'll start there because obviously yesterday's podcast, I dropped midseason grades and just even beyond that from conversations I've had and the vantage point that I have on social media and kind of getting a feel on Gamecock Nation. You sit at 4-2 right now. And we talked a little bit about this a little bit last week, but we were more so focused on the Kentucky game. But you sit at 4-2. 1-2 in SEC play. You got an opportunity this weekend. You're only a 3.5-point dog now. Got an opportunity to be 5-2. Yet it feels like there's this unsettledness within the fan base. You know what I mean? There's this restlessness. There's this nagging thing, this thorn in the side of Gamecock fans. And I don't know if you feel that or talking to your buddies, you sense that. But the mood, I think, is not quite what I thought it would be in Gamecock Nation. And it almost, I think, feels like a keeping up with the Joneses thing. It's like, when you do something to your house and in that moment, you have that moment of satisfaction or joy, but then you look over next door, right? What your neighbor's doing. And our neighbors happen to be Georgia and Clemson and Tennessee, right? And what they're doing. Do you sense that at all? Do you pick up on that feeling from folks you interact with and talk to about Gamecocks football at this point?
I mean, most of the people I interact with and talk to are just it's just general frustrations. I mean, I don't think anybody's like horribly disappointed with where we are at this moment. Because predictably, this is kind of where everybody thought we would be, and admittedly, at this point in the season, I thought we would have been 5-1. So I mean, we're one loss worse than that. I think that it's honestly, I think it's just the way that I think the thorn in everybody's side is again just the way that the offense has looked through 6 weeks of the season, and it looked better in the second half of Kentucky. So let's see if we can keep that rolling.
Well, and I talked about it too, Alex. You hope that's the light bulb moment, right? You hope that second half is, and I don't think you look at that. I don't know that they really did anything to reinvent the wheel in the second half of that Kentucky game, right? Like, I mean, I think like the Antoine Wells screenplay. We've been running screens all year. It just happened to work. It's a great play when it works. You know what I mean? When it's not getting blown up in the backfield. I will say, by the way, that this is a side note. I don't watch a lot of NFL, but I tell you what, watching the Broncos game last night, it made me feel better about our offense. I'm like, I didn't know it was possible to watch an offense worse than ours till I watched the Broncos. And I'm like, they are trash. Like,
they're not good. They're not good.
I'm like, God, this is brutal. Anyways, though, it's like you mentioned, I would have signed up for 4-2 in a heartbeat because, like I said, you have now put yourself in a position to achieve everything you want to. But I think it's more so again, Alex. Back to the point. Thought I muted the callers here. It's more of the point of what's happening at Tennessee offensively. Right? It goes back more so to that point of what has gone so differently in a year and a half in Knoxville offensively than what's going on in Columbia. I think that's where the frustrations really lie.
Yeah, well, and maybe this is going maybe too galaxy brain on the question, but I think you look at it and you're like, oh, we're getting this guy from Oklahoma. We're going to bring that whole Oklahoma system to Columbia and we're going to be throwing the ball over the field. We're going to score 50 points a game, yada, yada, yada. We seem to have gone in the other direction from that, where you're going to be, at least again, based on Marcus Satterfield's own comments, far more conservative than what they would have been in Oklahoma. And like what Tennessee is doing right now is what Lincoln Riley was doing in Oklahoma. Yeah. And so it's just two sides of that coin. I mean, we could do what, they're doing in Tennessee, albeit maybe not as successful, but I mean, it's not some overly complicated scheme where it's, you got 90 pieces moving in 90 different directions. It's just putting your guys in the best matchups that they can possibly be in. And, explaining that down to the quarterbacks and the receivers, like, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to look for, rather than, putting somebody in a progressive read situation. It's just like, you get this, you go here, you get this, you go here. That's it. And they run it incredibly effectively.
Well, Alex, I think so too. That you mentioned Tennessee, and when you look at them, the genius simplicity of it. Like I feel like you have to be that way, in the transfer portal era, where it's like you're going to be interchanging players in and out, right? There's levels to this thing, and there's facets to the game. Like that is awesome if you can. You're a mastermind of offense. And I mean, dude, this can apply to any walk of life. Bro. Apply it to your business. You're like, you can know, you can have all the knowledge in the world, right? If you can't convey that knowledge in a way, again, this is so far beyond football. If you can't convey the knowledge you have in a way that's understandable for the audience in which you're trying to convey that information to, that information, that knowledge you have is useless. It's useless. It's flat out useless. And that can apply to football. That can apply to business. It can apply to parenting. Like, you can know the most about life, but if you can't convey that in a way that's understandable, it's not going to hit home.
Well, I think in two, going back to that, it's just, like Josh Heupel played quarterback at Oklahoma, so he knows what he's looking at. He coached a lot of offenses all over the country, so he's got that experience like built into him, where like he knows situationally how to execute those plays in the best manner. And I think that's 90% of the game of being an offensive coordinator, is knowing when to call something, what look you need to get, like what their tendency is here, and then being able to put your guys in the right position to execute. Now, I mean, like I know I said last time, 90% of the offenses are, all the same. Like Tennessee's doing some different stuff with splits and how they're lining wide receivers up, and that's putting, but that's a wrinkle they've added in there to bring confusion to those defenses. It's like I was joking with my buddy Will when we were watching the game. Like a fourth down call, or maybe it wasn't that game, but there was a fourth down call where somebody ran that fourth down out of the gun, and we were both like, I hate that call. And my comment back was like, at least they didn't run it from like a tight split where you have all 11 people sitting right there. At least they had the decency to move the receivers out of the picture.
Truly spread it out. Yeah, that's infuriating when you see that, when it's all bunched up like that. I mean, obviously we did that, I think, at Kentucky. So
we did.
Yeah, granted, thankfully, when you win, it's funny how you don't talk about those things quite as much or nearly as much, right? They get masked over. This game this weekend, Alex, what's your overall vibe on this game? Because it's interesting, right? Both teams coming off a bye week. South Carolina, we know, right? 4-2, 1-2, hasn't been flashy, hasn't been sexy. Great win in Lexington against a Will Levis-less Kentucky team. Reasons to be optimistic, still reasons for concern. And then you look at A&M. Sounds like Haynes King is going to play at quarterback. We know they've got a fantastic running back in A-Chain. Losing Anaya Smith on the outside has killed their offense. They're averaging 21 points per game. Got a stout defense, averaging 18 points per game. Lost to App State early in the year. Lost to Bama by just 4. Like, sitting at 3-3, you feel like this is the most winnable game you've had in the series. A&M comes in as a 3.5-point favorite on your field at night. How do you view this one? Like, what's the overall vibe and the mood from you coming in this game?
I mean, I'm surprised they're a 3.5 point favorite. Um, I thought for sure it would have been a pick 'em, but you know, I agree with you. This is our best chance to beat them since this series has started. So I don't. I mean, admittedly, and I'm going to live to regret this, but I don't think Texas A&M's really anything to write home about at this point. I mean, yeah, they've got great players on there, but for whatever reason, they're just not a cohesive unit by any stretch of the imagination. So, if we can run the ball and create turnovers, like we're going to win that game. I would almost say pretty comfortably.
Yeah, because I don't think I'll say this. I don't think A&M. You know what's interesting, Alex, is I talked about this morning with somebody else, that these two teams in some ways are mirrors of each other. Really, I mean, some of the things these two teams do. Like I was talking to Chris Marler of Saturday Down South last week, and he just was going on and on and on about A&M and slow starts, and I'm like, you're literally preaching to the choir, bro. like, bro, this game might be nothing and nothing at halftime, knowing these two teams.
It's
I
entirely
mean, really. Bro, whatever the first half total is, hammer the under. I mean, that's really, when we're talking best bets, that should be the under. No doubt. No doubt. That should be the play, I should say. But
I'll add this to it. Just kind of on your underplay, it has a sneaking feeling of when we played Florida last year, like where you've kind of gone through this adversity, at least on the Florida side, where it wasn't expected. Like Texas A&M came out. Where would they start at 6?
yes.
Okay,
Top
obviously
10.
that's not. Yeah. Okay. So that the wheels have come off of that train, and it's like you get kind of whooped by Mississippi State going into the bye week. Like, how are you keeping that locker room together? It just, to me, it feels very reminiscent of us playing Florida last year.
I could see it. Maybe not to the degree they were, but I get what you're saying. I think the running back matchup in this one, Alex, is really intriguing. Lloyd against A-Chain. Again, I think a lot of this game, it's cliche, but it's cliche for a reason because it's proven that line of scrimmage in the SEC, that's what it comes down to. And I think A&M presents you with a little bit of a different challenge than Kentucky did. I think they're better. I think they're better on both, especially their offensive line. I think is much better. Defensive line's very solid. What is Haynes King going to do? I mean, again, their offense has been abysmal. This is really, I think, one of the greatest hesitations going in this one. Admittedly, I feel almost somewhat similarly to how I did going into Kentucky in the sense of, and I have not, Alex, as you know, I haven't made a pick. I won't make a prediction until late in the week, but it's one of those things where I'm so hesitant to fully dive in, right? To fully jump on the bandwagon because of all the negative history. Like that's which is so funny. These last 2 weeks, I could argue these last 2 games, I should say, Alex, are a microcosm of South Carolina football. You are fighting negative history. That's exactly what we do on a daily basis. You're fighting against negative history. And I don't say that to be any type of way, but it is kind of just the reality, is it not? And that's what you guys, you were able to do so well. Spurrier was able to do so well, was combat negative history, and not let it define you.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, in your defense, the probably defining image of the Shane Beamer era may be, Zeb Nolan laying dead on the field in Texas A&M last year.
Yes, if I can assure you, if things are going poorly Saturday, I will post that picture with just mood as the caption. That'll say it all.
Yeah, for sure.
Just dead on the ground, just done. questioning life decisions like, should I have played football? Should I be doing this?
Yeah, I had a clipboard. Why did I do this to myself?
Yeah, chilling. I know Zeb Nolan's on the sideline just watching some of the hits that Rattler's probably taking. He's like, glad it ain't me. Been there, done that.
Now, granted, Texas A&M was a very different animal last year, so
Right.
I don't think we're staring down the barrel of a repeat performance of that. But I don't
Right.
know. It feels like this sets up incredibly well for us. Like you've had 3 weeks to get the ground game in order, which has happened. I wish we had spent a little bit more of that time working on deep balls in live action situations. That didn't come to pass. But that being said, again, from an encouragement standpoint, what Spencer was able to do in the pocket and stepping up and hitting crossing routes to Josh Fan and those guys against Kentucky to extend those plays where, that would have been a throwaway or a sack 4 weeks ago, that gives me a lot of encouragement and hope that, hopefully this offense has turned the corner. And it's not designed to look anything like Tennessee's offense is going to look like. And that's just something, as frustrating as it may be, that's just something we're going to have to accept for the time being. But if you can continue to move the ball on the ground and being able to move, and Spencer's able to move around in the pocket and find those crossing routes, I mean, we're going to have a lot of success doing that.
On the flip side, Alex, of everything I just said about history and who cares, right? This is the 2022 Gamecocks against the 2022 Aggies. It doesn't matter what happened the last 8 meetings. I come into this game, it's like you've got a reeling A&M team on your home field at night. My mindset kind of goes back to the 10 to 13 days where it's like you should win. Just period in discussion. You should win. You should win. Home at night.
Absolutely.
It's probably a sold-out crowd. Good teams, I guess that's what we're going to figure out, right, as we go. Are we actually a good team, or are we just kind of a mediocre, stumbled our way to 6-16? But if we're a good team, I think good teams win these games. I really do. Good teams, listen, I don't really, Florida is a mess, whatever. It's a while before we play them. But I would argue losing in Gainesville to Florida would be much more forgivable than losing this one. You got to protect your home field, man. It's exponentially harder to win on the road. You got to protect your home field at night, man. You got to.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, losing, like, we lost at Florida, that would surprise me more than we lost to Texas A&M at home.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting for sure. I put a lot of these games in boxes over the preseason and swing games and most important games. And again, I didn't really put Texas A&M in any sort of box, but this one feels like a big one. It does, in regards to which like I said, the mood right now is so intriguing to me. I think that's almost more interesting to talk about than talking about the specific game on Saturday. Is that just the overall mood of South Carolina football fans right now? And I'm not saying it's everybody, but again, we have a unique vantage point, Alex, on the fan base because of what we do and where we sit and looking at social media. And it's like, I still feel like people have this edge right now, this unsettled edge that I'm surprised is there. I know it comes from the offensive struggles. I know it comes from the Satterfield dissatisfaction, but it's still surprising to me. It is a little bit.
Well, I mean, I would tell you that mood's going to persist. If we won 21-10, that mood's still going to persist. Like, that's not going to change until, like, we beat somebody like 50-10 that has a pulse.
And that's that's fair. That's fair. I get that. I would just say this though: if you beat A&M, let's say it happens, you should start 7-2. If you're 7-2, Alex, I don't want to hear one complaint. Like I just smell the roses. Like, wake up and, like, you know what I mean? Like, just choose to be happy. Choose to be happy. I guess I'd rather be in this position of trying to figure it out after a W. We've won 3 in a row. It doesn't feel like it. We've won 3 in a row. It's like I don't know. I understand, though, you don't be ignorance is bliss, ignore the problem completely, but we have won 3 in a row. That's all I'm saying. I'll take
it's not even ignorance is bliss.
I'll take it.
Well, of course. I would sign up for that right now. It's not happening in the way that I think people want it to happen, and that's where the frustration is coming from.
Yeah. And to be fair, I spent a lot of the preseason saying it's year 2 about Beamer. It's about how you win, not just how many you win. So maybe I walked right into that. Maybe I sound like a hypocrite right now, but we say a lot of things over the summer and the preseason that they sound good or they make sense when it's July, right? But when you get in the midst of the season and emotions are flying and it's a roller coaster, you're just happy to win games. Like, I just want to win games. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to win. That's it. So,
I mean, at least you didn't say we were going to win the SEC East on the internet.
Well, I applaud you for having.
So I got that going for me.
Yeah, I applaud you for having a bold take. It's not like every time I post a clip from you, somebody's like, "Oh, this is the idiot that said we're going to win the East." But not like that.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'll say this: if you do beat A&M and you get to 7-2, it's not that. I mean,
have crazier things happen? Have they?
Listen. They have happened. Like, you get Tennessee to beat Georgia, they stumble again, then all of a sudden, if you can beat Tennessee at home November 19th.
Pure madness ensues. There's still a path. Mathematically, there is a path, no doubt. Well, we'll see. I mean, that's again, I think that's where it all stems from, is the offensive struggles. And I would listen, it is extremely fair to say that Spencer Rattler needs to have an improved second half. I mean, you could say about the numbers, the picks aren't his fault. The reality is he has 5 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. That's just got to improve. Alex, here's something I'll leave you with, because I'm going to get you out of here, but something I'll leave you with. You mentioned turnovers. If you want to know a wild stat, and it even more so goes to show why folks should be grateful about a 4-2 start. South Carolina, it's like we're like 120th or something. -6 in turnover margin right now, right near the bottom of college football. So, I mean, and we're 4-2. I mean, very, very, very fortunate. So,
yes. Yeah, you're not supposed to be 4-2 with that kind of
with those numbers. Very fortunate. So,
yeah, I mean, but you know what? At the end of the day, I think we're better than Texas A&M is, and I think we'll win this weekend. So
I love it. Calling the shot, calling the dub. And I think that's a fair prediction. I don't think anybody that picks Carolina to beat Texas A&M is like off their rocker or anything. Like I said, I haven't locked in a pick or a prediction. I'm going back and forth internally. I think I sound like a broken record, I feel like, as I feel very similar to how I felt the week of Kentucky. I really do. And that's, it's funny, Alex. Again, one last thing before I get you out of here. It's funny. This week is sort of a microcosm of this entire second half, in the sense of you have a lot of negative trends and streaks to break. A lot of them. You've lost 8 in a row against A&M. You've lost 3 in a row to Mizzou. You've lost 3 in a row to Tennessee. You've lost 7 in a row to Clemson. Like, there's a lot of streaks. There's a lot of streaks to break. So, maybe, like Coach Spurrier would say, yep, we're just doing some firsts, accomplishing some firsts around here. So maybe we're able to break a couple of streaks and do some things that, and I'll tell you this too. I said it going into Kentucky. It's a little bit, not even a little bit. It's unfair. It's probably unfair that we put these streaks and these burdens on Shane Beamer, that he didn't have anything to do with 90% of what happened, right? Like he didn't lose 48-3 to A&M in 2020. That was Muschamp's team that did that. So, granted, last year we all know what happened against A&M, but these are games that I think we talked about the importance of Shane Beamer establishing my program's different. Like, these are games, if you start to win these, right? You start to win these, it starts to change narrative and perception's reality when it comes to college football. So, it's just another huge opportunity. So, we'll see what happens.
That's it. That's all you can ask for.
So, Alex, always a pleasure, my friend. I appreciate you taking the time. I know, obviously, we'll link up soon. Enjoy this beautiful weather, by the way. I don't know if you're a cool weather guy, but
I am.
hoodie season's here, pullover season, vest season, whatever you like. So,
quarter zip season, baby. Let's do it.
Quarter zip season. Indeed. Alex, I appreciate you, man. We'll do it again next week.
All right. Sounds good, buddy.
Yeah, man. Great stuff.